This podcast is brought to you by the Heldridge Hotel, New Brunswick's only 4-star hotel and a preferred hotel of Rutgers football fans. The Heldridge helps you make the most of your game day weekend, providing premium accommodations in the cultural heart of downtown New Brunswick. Restaurants, bars, theaters, parks, museums, and more are only steps away. Whether you're traveling alone or with a large group, book your stay at the Heldridge and make the most of your game day weekend. Visit theheldridge.com today.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
From NJ.com and the Star Ledger, welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights, with your hosts Steve Politti and Rutgers insiders Brian Fonseca and Pat Lenny. Let's start chopping.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Rant. Politti here, Fonseca, Lanny. We're all here. Miami of Ohio recap, 45-17 victory. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? It was we certainly have nitpicked a pretty convincing victory. I will say that. 28 points. The offense has now scored 80 points in 2 games. We have NFL caliber receivers. We have the best quarterback in 10 years. Are we happy? Can we just be happy for once? I got that email. Why can't you just be happy? I'm happy. I'm happy. Okay. I'm sorry. It's hard to argue with that. It's like a really good offense.
Yes, but when this defense gives up 70 points to Oregon, everyone's going to be like, why didn't anyone talk about how bad the early bad signs of the defense? We can't win. I'll be the negative Nelly for once and start off by saying that the 45-17 score was very deceiving because at one point it was 24-17, or it was 31-17. Miami is moving down the field, and then they get called for an offensive pass interference that I thought Chuck Martin was going to storm the field and attack the referee. He was so mad. And he was adamant about it in the postgame as well, that no one touched his offensive player did not touch anyone. I look back at the replay. It was hard to tell. The announcing crew didn't really seem to have a strong opinion either way. I understand why he was upset, because his point is, yes, sometimes our guys held, sometimes our guys committed penalties. 10-2 is quite something. And the discrepancy of penalties. Greg Schiano's rebuttal obviously is that you saw Ian Strong get literally tackled on one of those guys, and they were doing that all game. They had no other choice sometimes but to do that because Rutgers' offense was so dominant. But anyway, the point being here, sorry to keep rambling here.
It certainly wasn't the biggest assault that he had. I mean, of the scale of the 10 penalties, that certainly wasn't the physical assault that some of them were, certainly. But he did touch him.
It was the second offensive pass interference call as well on a pick play. Yeah. So I think he rightfully so. It all kind of boiled over, but again, it was a very questionable call from my perspective. I like
Chuck Markin. He's welcome back here anytime. He's brought a little crazy to SHI Stadium. He was going nuts at Sweater Fest.
It's great.
Yeah, he was fun. Yeah.
I don't know if you watched his post game either. He was a ball of energy after the game as well. Could barely get one coherent thought through before the next one started.
Both coaches furious. Both coaches furious about the. I love it. Like Schiano was as mad as I've seen him in a long time too. After the whole third quarter kerfuffle, we'll talk about that later. Getting a little off track here, but that was a funny little side light from this from the whole game. Those two guys going at it. It was great.
Yes, and I think if Chuck Martin had that call go against him, he would spontaneously combust. I think he would have.
Rightfully so.
The point in bringing all that up is that at that point in the game, the way Miami had carved up Rutgers' defense, which really couldn't do anything as far as when they pressured, they couldn't bring DeQuan Finn down. He was able to scramble and get big yards. When they left the pocket clean, he was dicing them up. He threw out 2 60-yard passes, and that made the Rutgers secondary look. They had a rough game for the second week in a row. And I mean, look, this number is crazy to me. They had pressure on him on 41% of his dropbacks. 41. They didn't get a sack until his last drive of the game when they were just in desperation mode and exhausted. And look, one could say 2 athletic quarterbacks in a row. One could say that's a lot of pressures for no sacks for the umpteenth year in a row.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to
just because of the larger sample size going back to last season, lean toward the latter, Pat. It seemed like it was almost like they were, how many times could they get within 3 feet of a quarterback without laying a hand on him? Forget bringing them down. And then even when they did get the sack, it took like everybody on the defense late in the game. They like hugged them 5 times before finally it was like, oh, I think he was just tired. He's like, I'm just gonna take a nap. I'm gonna lie down at this point.
There was one play reminiscent of Eli Manning's famous play in the Super Bowl where he broke through and the Patriots right before the helmet catch. It was that DeQuan Finn, just breaking 5 tackles and miraculously escaping the pocket. I don't know what it is. It must drive Shiano and the coaching staff absolutely crazy to see the inability of his defense to finish plays at the point of attack. I mean, they had Finn dead to rights 7 times and couldn't bring him down. And give credit to where credit's due. The kid's a great player. He's athletic, but Rutgers at some point has to make these plays finish something off. So it was really something to see. And like you said, the sample size is so large going back the last 3 years of just this is becoming what Rutgers is known for, getting to the quarterback and not finishing the play.
Right. Rutgers didn't get a sack here on this play.
That's so great.
This was a 13-yard run for DeQuan Finn.
Wow.
And this is one screenshot. I have 2 or 3 others. If it happens once,
where's the pocket?
Yeah, that's amazing.
The pocket.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tough. It is tough. And it goes back to this, any quarterback with a little bit of mobility has given Rutgers fits for years. And that's a big concern because they're going to play a bunch more. Obviously, that's the model in college football now. I left this game and I was funny. I couldn't decide if I was more concerned about that pass rush because I think there's just a ceiling on what it can do, or if I'm more concerned about the secondary, which was also, not great. Especially early in the game, giving up big plays. Safeties seemed to be out of position. Greg Schiano took the blame for one of the big plays. I'm not sure which one he's talking about. I think it might be the one where Kosh Sanders was out of position. Brian, did you pinpoint what he was talking about there?
No, I couldn't quite figure it out. I don't think it was the first one because that one was just Jet Eli getting beat on a double move. And then Cam Kraft was, by the time the ball got to him, if DeQuan Finn threw a ball, in stride, it would have been a touchdown. He had to stop. But the fact he had so much space, Cam Kraft, the wide receiver, did, he was able to stop, catch the ball, and then still outrace Jet Eli and beat him before Kosh Sanders stopped him at the 1. So I don't think it was that one. I think that was just an example of the safeties really struggling to guard guys in space. Cam Kraft is a great wide receiver, but to get beat that bad is not a good sign.
Yeah, it certainly isn't. Again, I will say that, and we talked about this a lot. They did play another good team. I think Miami is going to be pretty good. I can see them winning 7 or 8 games, recovering. Although what they put on film against Wisconsin offensively wasn't great. So it wasn't like Ohio, which went on. Hey, Ohio, man, going on and beating West Virginia. So clearly that's going to be a 10-win team. That's going to be the team that's going to compete for the MAC championship that Rutgers beat. I don't know. I'm trying to see this from the defense from the positive spin here. Greg Schiano certainly wasn't, making any excuses early on. He knew it was going to be like this. It is like this. Is this, Pat? Is this the thing that gets better though? That's the question I have. Is this a unit that will improve by November or October?
2 points to this. I think one is there are fundamental flaws that are happening. Every secondary will get beat on a deep ball here and there. That's the inevitability of football. To see it happen 4 or 5 times in 2 games against not the greatest competition is extremely concerning. But you think, right, like Kosh Sanders is too good of a player for that to happen 2 games in a row. Jet Elad, again, experienced player. You don't expect this to be happening time and time again. I think the biggest issue at this point is that it's a defense that was rebuilt with a lot of transfers and experienced players stepping into big roles. I think they're just trying to find their footing in these new roles. And I do see it getting better. And I this is the Norfolk State week. It couldn't come at a better time to get this thing right. And then you're going to face an Iowa team that, doesn't look great offensively again. So you got 2 opportunities to fix this before things get really crazy and important. So that's encouraging for me, at least.
Brian, you agree?
Look, I think you might have overblown how good Miami of Ohio is, at least offensively. They're probably not as bad as they showed against Wisconsin, to be completely fair. They had more yards in 10 plays against the Rutgers than they did against Wisconsin. And their first 3 plays of the game was a 3 and out where they gained 7 yards, right? Like that. And it's not like that was, okay, they started off well and then Rutgers tampered down. I mean, they were good for about 3.5 quarters offensively, right? Like maybe Wisconsin
they
has
look good to me.
Maybe. Look, if that's the glass half full thing, maybe. And yes, to Pat's point, the next 2 weeks could give you some hope that they got better, right? Just because they're playing worse offenses. But, you thought early in the year, they're playing 2 MAC teams. That would be a good start to look at, and they did it, right? So at some point, after these next 4 weeks, we'll have a better idea. But at some point, you are what you are, right? I think they will get better naturally to the point of, 6 new starters, a lot of new faces, new defensive coordinator, yada, yada. But these things, some of these issues are just blatant, like glaring issues. But I will say this. I thought I was a bit unfair in my story. I mentioned like what's going to happen when the big boys come to town, Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon. To be fair, even really good defenses get carved up by those guys. I think the bigger concern is what happens when they face Minnesota, Illinois, Iowa, teams like that, where they're toss-up games. Every play makes a difference. If your defense is getting beat by those guys, then you have a harder time winning. And the offense is going to have to carry the load. Obviously, I think that's been very clear through the first couple of weeks. How much of a load are you going to put on that offense, and how much are you going to expect for them to overcome? That is the biggest question. And when it's this much week in, week out against Big Ten teams, it's hard to expect them to win every week and play as well as they did this week every week.
Offense is going to have to carry the load. Luckily, it appears it can carry the load. And that to me still is the biggest takeaway from these first 2 games, that Rutgers has a very good offense. And I think that offense is going to be good against all competition. I mean, I say that understanding that they're, and at the end of the year, there are 2 elite defenses, 2 national championship contenders coming here. Let's just say for the majority of the schedule, I think this is it. This is a team. Ian Strong's going to do that against good defenses. I mean, KJ Duff looks like he's going to do that a good deal. I think Rutgers can run the ball now. Well, that's the one thing I wonder against a really good defense. But Pat, for the most part, I mean, we are seeing the best offense at Rutgers in at least 10 years. And I'm going to say that I think it's longer than that, because even when Leonte Carew was setting records, getting 1,000 yards, he didn't have KJ Duff next to him, right? That's what we have now. We have got a 1-2 punch. And, we're not even talking about DT Sheffield and the rest of the weapons.
It is really a full complement of playmakers on the ground, through the air. The offensive line has looked very good through 2 games. Yeah, I think the question is, will Rutgers ultimately become too one-dimensional, and will that running game be able to work against a really stout front 7, Iowa in particular? That's the one I want to see. I want to see Rutgers run the ball really well against Iowa to keep that multifaceted attack rolling, because Rutgers is not a team. I'm just saying this historically. Maybe it is this season, but Rutgers is historically not going to be a team that gets one-dimensional and can just do one thing really well. It has to have that complementary offensive game plan. The run sets up the pass sets up the run. I think that has to be in the inner workings, and it has been, of Kirk Ciarrocca's offense. So I want to see some balance. I'm not saying Rutgers hasn't been balanced. They've been so balanced this year and even last year. So I think that's encouraging. The bigger point is how effective can the run game be, and how sharp can Kaliakmanis be? Obviously, his guys are going to be open. Is he going to be able to get them the ball? Can the one wrinkle, can the tight ends get a little bit more involved? I know it's a little minor thing, but just something to point out as well.
It is worth wondering like how much their lack of involvement has been by design, or do they just feel the wide receivers are good enough against these lower level opponents where you don't need to introduce more plays, or are they just not these dynamic pass catchers that can do it? That'll be interesting to see against an Iowa, for example, where you're probably going to have to pull out all the stops. I am curious to see how the wide receivers perform against an Iowa. I'm encouraged that they will perform well, because the way they played against Miami of Ohio, Ian Strong looked like he was running routes on air, just physically dominating these defensive backs and almost jogging to get open. And he's getting to the outside. He's cutting inside. He's making tough catches behind him, above him. I mean, he is the real deal. And I know we thought he would be coming into the season, but I was really impressed with him against Miami, Ohio. And I think, like, to your point, like, they're going to play a lot better defenses. So the numbers that he's on pace to hit now are probably not going to hit, but he has a chance to make some real, like, things that haven't happened since Leonte Carew. And Leonte Carew had some otherworldly numbers. Like, if you're even in that territory, that to me is a sign of like you are one of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten. Again, at least right now, I think he has a chance to be.
No, there's no question. Absolutely. And we're not even talking about the man throwing the ball to him, who Phil Simms had quite a crush on. If you guys were listening to the Peacock coverage, you had this stat about, and me and Phil Simms, by the way, also can't pronounce his name. That was the other thing I loved. The number of times, like the number of different ways that Phil Simms pronounced Athan Kaliakmanis. And at one point, this was great. At one point he goes, Kaliak, like he pretended to get like all of a sudden he was halfway through the name. All of a sudden he got like something in his throat. I was like, Phil, that's what I'm going to do. And that's a good idea. Next time I halfway through murdering his name, I'm going to pretend that all of a sudden I'm overcome by an allergy attack. That's brilliant. That is a veteran broadcaster. Anyway, Phil Simms loved him. And I can understand why. You had this stat in your great game review, Brian. Remove his one throwaway and the 4 drops from receivers and his adjusted completion percentage on the season, 84.6%, is the 5th highest among the 102 FBS quarterbacks who have thrown at least 40 passes this season. For a guy who accuracy, that was going to be the bugaboo, the problem. He was in the 50s when he got here, in the 50s after his first season. He's now throwing in the 80s. What else can you say?
Yeah, he's been really good so far, and he does get help from his wide receivers. As mentioned earlier, Ian, his second touchdown, he catches it behind him. The first one, he catches it a little bit above him. And again, to be clear, there were 1 or 2 throws where Athan had an open guy and either underthrew it or just missed it a little bit. But the fact it's only 1 or 2 is very encouraging.
Not Tom Brady, yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Even though he did interact with
Phil
Tom Brady
Simms in the Super Bowl, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yes. But no, I think it's hard to you'd be nitpicking if you're trying to find anything that Athan has done wrong. I mean, he even ran probably more than we would liked against Miami, Ohio. So he's pretty much doing everything. It's hard to nitpick what he's doing. He's clearly, we've thought about it before the season, he's clearly the best quarterback they've had since Nova. And I think he has a chance of, if this keeps going, to be the best quarterback they've had since Teal and really insert himself into the top 3 in program history.
Yeah, I saw Teal online after during the opener getting his halftime snack, and I'm like, I don't know, your records are going down. He's like, I'm just glad he can't be back for more seasons after this. So Micah recognizes it, but yeah, no, good point. No, I mean he's going to be in the record book.
One other thing about the completion percentage, to be in the top 5 in the country is just unbelievable. The growth and development that you're seeing in Kaliakmanis is unbelievable too. It's so encouraging. And these aren't, listen, Rutgers isn't a spread team, 5 receiver sets throwing dink and dunk, 2-yard, 3-yard passes. Probably some of those guys in the top 5 are. He's throwing the ball 10, 15 yards, out cuts, outside the numbers. Rutgers, Shiraka and Shiano have an unbelievable faith in this guy to throw the ball to the sideline, which a lot of quarterbacks struggle making those throws. Kaliakmanis making it look so easy. Think about how many of those routes to Strong and Duff are just simple 10 to 15 yards. Simple. I'm saying simple. They're not simple. 10 to 15 yard outs. And it just looks like they're playing pitch and catch. It's really, really, really encouraging.
Right. Yeah.
His average depth of target, I think, is right around 10 yards per attempt, which, to your point, like, he's not just thinking, they don't throw screens at Rutgers, right? So that makes it even more impressive. And again, I hate using this to have a comparison, right? Because I think each quarterback stands on their own. But between Nova and Kaliakmanis, how many quarterbacks have Rutgers had who can regularly complete those kinds of throws where every time they throw a ball to the boundary, you're not thinking, oh, I hope it doesn't sail, or, oh, I hope it doesn't fall too short. Like, it's very encouraging that when you have a guy wide open, you feel like, okay, this ball is going to hit the guy in the hands.
Or crazier, how many times do you throw an out route and the cornerback undercuts it? That there hasn't been one throw that I've seen so far this season that's even been in the vicinity of being in danger, which is incredible accomplishment to the receivers being that open and Kaliakmanis being that accurate.
The ball is the program. 2 games, 0 turnovers. If you go to Rutgers practice, the ball is the program. Is announced 8 million times until it's burned into your head. And I guess that's the reason. But yeah, no, he's made mistakes, but he has not made a critical mistake. And obviously, we don't have to say which quarterback, but the previous quarterbacks have. That's how we ended up with where we are now with Athan. So.
to be fair to those two previous quarterbacks, big weekend for them. Evan Simon is like the most productive quarterback in the Group of 5 level at Temple. I mean, he's played UMass, which just lost to Bryant, and Howard, but he is just crushing it with Temple. And Gavin Wimsatt got his first win as a quarterback since the 2023 Pinstripe Bowl this weekend. Jacksonville State upsets Liberty. He has a rushing touchdown. 6 of 12 passing isn't great, but enough for the Gamecocks to win. So credit to former Rutgers quarterbacks this weekend. They had a good
for both of them. Absolutely. Yes. Rutgers fans should be rooting them on. They were good representatives of the program while they were here and did their best. And it's certainly not all their faults. If they probably would have been better with the current weapons and blocking that we're seeing here. All right. Anything else we want to talk about this game before we take questions offensively? Brian, what do you got?
Yeah, just really quick, the Dante Chin thing, Greg seemed worried about it. I mean, he brought it up unprompted, which he almost never does with injuries. He had to get helped off the field and go to the injury tent. He was carted off after the medical tent, which is never a good sign. If he's down, it is a blow because he's the second tackle that they expected to play that is out for the year. Again, it's not clear how long Dante Chin will be out, but it doesn't look great. So that at least – it would solve the mystery in the sense that Tyler Needham would almost certainly be the starting left tackle, and then you have Taj White at right. So there's no more like flip-flopping and wondering who is the guy. The issue then is you have no depth, right? And sometimes the mystery is worth having two guys you think can play. That'll be a situation worth monitoring because I don't think that will tank the offensive line. I do think that will be a hit, especially, again, it's not a great sign that you have two guys out for the year.
Yeah, that's a shame, Pat, because the line had played really well.
Really well, and Dante Chin was a great story too. A guy that straight up had a great camp, won the job. Tyler Needham, remember, was the starting right tackle before his injury last season. And it was kind of, I want to say underwritten, but the assumption was that Needham was just going to slide over to left tackle and be the starter there. But Chin had just such a great camp that made that kind of impossible. To Brian's point, he's definitely right. It's not a huge drop off going from Chin to Needham, but the concern is what happens if there's one more injury on the line. Now you're getting thinned out and put to the test 2 weeks in. That's not great.
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Ebglyss. After an initial dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab, LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
All right, let's dive into some questions. Most of them about the defense. I think that's just natural because there's really nothing much to ask about the offense at this point. But there are some people who want to know if we're overreacting, which I don't know. Maybe we are, but this is from JP, who's usually got a good finger on the pulse of this stuff. Without getting really deep into the analytics in an effort to be glass half full about the defense, 14 of those 17 points were on 2 big plays by Miami. You cleaned it up and well. Can you say the defense did play better? I mean, I guess, can you say the defense played better after that, late in the second half? Can you say, I don't know. It's a good point. Can you say the defense did the one thing it had to do? Bo Masco, you need to get big plays like that. Okay. So they had a interception, a 60-yard return. That's certainly a good thing. Created the turnover, won the turnover margin. I'm trying to find positives as well. Brian, do you buy this that maybe, it's better than we might think?
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? I mean, the big play still happened, right? Like it's not like, yes, if you take away the scoring touchdowns, they didn't give up any touchdowns.
Too soon, by the way.
Yes. Look, I maybe we are getting a little too worried. Maybe we are exaggerating, right? And I think, to be fair, how poorly Miami of Ohio looked against Wisconsin is impacting how I viewed how well they played against Rutgers. Right. It's only natural. If you look at the flip side, Ohio torched up Rutgers defense, and then a week later they go to West Virginia. They win, but they only score 17 points. Parker Navarro has 3 interceptions. Is that because West Virginia had film from watching them against Rutgers? It's hard to know. I think you'd want to be a little more dominant against the MAC offense. I think you'd want to have more sacks. Yes, they got an interception. It took them, they have one interception against 53 opposing pass attempts. That is the exact same ratio as last year when everyone was saying they need to get more interceptions, right? So at the very least, they're maintaining where they were last year when we agree they were not good enough defensively. And the sack numbers are roughly the same as well. So I don't think this is a 5-alarm fire where this defense is going to, I think people misinterpreted what I wrote on after the game. I don't think they're going to go winless in the Big Ten. I'm just saying it's going to become infinitely harder to win Big Ten games, especially when a lot of your schedule is toss-up games if they don't improve defensively. I think it's hard to argue that they need to improve defensively, right? We all agree there.
Yeah. Brian made the mistake with that post, by the way, Pat, and he's never a good idea. He's writing, he's on deadline. He has to get that observation post. I used to write it. He'd get it done when the game is over. As soon as the game over, so he can go downstairs, do the interviews, and he made the mistake of asking me.
Is
this headline too harsh? Have I ever answered that question? No, I don't know, a little bit, maybe. Like, no, of course not. It's perfect.
Perfect headline. Listen, I think both of you are right, and I'm listen. Everyone knows I'm the glass half full guy on this podcast. And Brian's right. Brian's right. That you don't feel good playing Illinois if they just scored 45 against Duke, right? Like, you don't feel good playing against Minnesota. Like, these are games that it's going to come down to a critical defensive stop, and Rutgers has not had a critical defensive stop yet against two teams from the MAC. Like, that's not good. That's not good enough. But to JP's question, did you see signs that the defense was better? I did. I thought the pass rush, even though they didn't finish the plays, Brian talked about the percentage of plays that they had pressure on the quarterback. I saw that a little bit. I saw improvement there. I saw Abram Wright play at linebacker. I think that depth is going to be important. I think he's going to be an important piece. Al-Shadi Salam got some run at cornerback. I think that's going to be an important depth addition to the defense too. So I think what you're seeing now is not to give Schiano an infinite pat on the back, but it truly is a work in progress. I really do believe that they are going to get better. They're working through things. They had all these people to replace. It's kind of exactly what I thought it would be at this point. And if you are looking for the glass half full, I think there was a little bit of improvement there week over week.
I just want to wrap the point up on my column headline, The Story Cause. It created the greatest message board comment about me ever, which I think is very accurate. Fonseca is a moron, but he's right. That's all I care about. Tell me whatever you want. But as long as after the blood he's right, I'm happy.
Oh, that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. All right. Some other people, I think the D-line might not be that bad for the most part. They're okay against the run. We'll see. We'll see a better team. Weren't great against the run against Ohio. I will say that. Opposing quarterback getting rid of the ball quickly, so tough to get sacks. Okay. And then, I mean, we'll see. I think Iowa's going to be the test for this. A below average Big Ten offense comes here. If they put up 30-something points to win that game, we can say we'll take the ceiling and lower it very, very much on this team. So you got a week against Norfolk State to clean some of this stuff up, and then we'll see. People want to know still, the big question keeps on coming back. Is Greg Schiano going to assume defensive play calling duties if these breakdowns continue to occur? I don't see it. I really don't. I mean, it would be quite an admission that you screwed up the hiring process with the defensive coordinators. If you bring back Rob Smith, the guy who's supposed to understand your defense better than, only a handful of people, for the expressed purpose of calling the defense only to take it back. I think that's just a bad idea. I don't know if you guys disagree with that. We talked about it before.
What is Greg going to call? What magic plays does he have in the playbook that Rob Smith doesn't have access to that is suddenly going to make guys be able to cover a receiver? I don't. This is the same ethos as like the starting quarterback is struggling. Throw in the backup. He has to be better. It's just like, I think we're too early in the season for this cries of desperation. I think. No, I mean, to think Schiano is involved at all in the defense. I'm not saying he's in the meetings doing all the planning and stuff. But to think he's not involved at all. I mean, the guy took blame for one of the worst defensive plays of the game, right? So he has some involvement.
He's coaching the defense, of course. Absolutely.
To some extent, right? Like, again, we'll never know the true extent, but again, I think it's silly, and I think we should put an embargo on all future questions about Schiano taking over the defense until or if they give up 70 to Oregon. Then I will gladly entertain this question. Until then, let's just keep it moving.
I agree. I agree with Brian. I think defensive play calling is such an overrated thing anyway. Like you're not calling defensive plays. Yeah. It's schematical. It's schematical. That's not a word. It's schematical. Schematical. My point being, Rutgers has not played great defense in the last 2 years in this 4-2-5 where you're playing 5 defensive backs and you're hoping the safety plays a linebacker. You have the guy that can play in the box. I'm blanking on his name the last 2 years. He was terrific.
Shaquan Loyal?
Shaquan Loyal was terrific in that role. Christian Izzian, fantastic player. Does Rutgers have that guy on this roster? I think that makes a big difference. Is Rutgers, if you want to ask this question next week in the comments, can Schiano not take over? Let's change the wording from taking over play calling to let's see if we can switch off this scheme a little bit. Are we best off in a 4-2-5 with 5 defensive backs, or do we need to be a typical 4-3, even switch to 3-4? I don't know. Is that the more important question here?
Yeah. Good point.
I think it's hard. I think it's hard to do that when you build a roster around the 4-2-5, right? Like I think that was kind of the way they constructed it, and that's a radical switch, right? Yeah. And it's hard probably to do it when you have the little linebacker depth they have. I do agree that there's some schematical stuff. Like I don't have the numbers in front of me. I haven't looked, but like blitzing, do they blitz enough? Is it worth blitzing? If you can't get a pass rush with 4 guys, is it worth blitzing to put pressure on the quarterback so you don't give him enough time to throw those 60-yard bombs and terrorize the secondary? Listen, I don't know. I'm not a defensive coach. I don't understand this anywhere near to that level, but I think it's still too early for any schematic, philosophical overhaul changes quite yet.
Right. Yeah. And the personnel stuff. All I will say, you did point out that Abram Wright is playing a little bit more linebacker. I wonder if when he gets back into game shape, we're going to see more of him. I think this is going to be an interesting week. That would be the guy I'd want to see a lot more linebacker, bring him in a little bit. I liked him last year. I don't know if that helps, but otherwise, I don't know. There's not a lot of personnel. And this is the reason there's not a lot of personnel changes to make. You had it in your, how did other Scarlet Knights do around the college football? Wesley Bailey, Louisville, 8 tackles, including a sack and 3 pressures. Renee Conga, Louisville, 7 tackles, 1.5 for loss. Motoré, 4 tackles and a sack against Bethune-Cookman. Okay, there you go. There's your defensive depth playing for other teams. Pretty simple. All right, a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap this up since we've got the pod to make predictions later in the week. Set the expectation for backup quarterback plays with the starting offense and second string offense for the Norfolk game. I think we'll dive into this a little bit more in the preview, but I want to see a half from a lot of these guys. Like I don't need to see, the starting offense out there. I want to see at least a half. What do you think? Is that going to be the reason? Maybe the first possession of the third quarter, but otherwise, I mean, I want to see as many of the young guys as possible.
I'd like to see that, right? Because that would mean Rutgers is up huge at halftime. I don't know what the number exactly would be, but I'd have to think at least 35, 42 points for them to feel comfortable enough to do that. I think more realistically is the fourth quarter. Like you start there, you're up a decent amount. The game is in hand. I was surprised AJ Surace didn't get on the field towards the end of this last game when you're up, 4 possessions. But I would think if he doesn't play this Saturday, he's not going to play this season, obviously. The other thing, if he does take the field, I'd like to see him throw the ball around a little bit. Johnny Shepard had some reserve snaps last year. He didn't throw a single pass. I would like, if you're going to put the kid in the game, give him a chance to air it out and try something in a game,
Pat would appreciate this as a Giants fan, like, because the entire narrative heading into the opener was there's a package for Jackson Dart. So maybe there's a package for AJ Surace here at Rutgers.
I love the Giants shout out as a disaster. I'm just as miserable as always. That said, I remember talking to Mike Teal about this a couple of years ago when he was a sophomore, I think. Okay, the schedule's not the same, but Schiano came to him the week of maybe the second or third game, very similar to this, and said, listen, you're going to play the second series. I want you ready to play the second series I forget who it was against. You're going to play the second series of the game, and then you're going to play the first series of the third quarter, regardless of what the score is. I would love to see that for AJ Cerise in this game.
That's a great point. Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
I mean, that's a learning experience, right? It's one thing to play in the fourth quarter when you're up 40 and there's no repercussions. You're up 7-0, second quarter, second series.
Yeah,
you can obviously make up for that if he has a bad series, right? Like they should be good enough to beat a Norfolk State team that needed overtime to beat Virginia State this weekend, right? I agree with that, Pat. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and then why is that exactly? Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Why is that important? Because you're playing with a first string offense. You're playing behind a great line with great receivers, and this is your chance to say, like, I'm ready for. This is my one opportunity to show Rutgers and Shiano that I'm ready for this in a game scenario with the personnel that's out there.
Yes,
I'm not going to tell. The playbook's out there. Go back and look at what Teal did. Or get Teal on the phone. I know he told me that at some point, so I'd love to see what he says.
It's a great idea. It's also another not a situation where and even us, and we could create a quarterback controversy out of thin air. I mean, no one could ever say, like, oh, wait a minute, AJ Cerise looks better. Of course not. So it's not even one of those things where there's no threat to his job. I like it. Good. I'm going to put that in the suggestion. If there's one person who notoriously loves to take suggestions from the outside, it's Greg Schiano. I'm going to put that in I want to go. There's a suggestion box right there at the front. I'm going to go write this down, hold it up, put it in the suggestion box. See if that comes up.
Send him an email to the email inbox. I am sure he reads every single day, like clockwork. If we had to put odds on that happening, would it be 5%, 10%? I don't think it's impossible. I think it's actually a really, really good idea. I'd be surprised.
Yeah, 5. I put it at 5. Yeah, totally. Because he hasn't done it recently. I don't know. I mean, maybe he listens. It'll be a reminder. You're driving home. Listen to the Rutgers Rant in between, whatever he's doing, driving back home.
Listen, if this makes the message boards, I want credit for this one. All right, that's all I want.
Lanny's a moron, but he's right about this. Yeah, that'd be good. All right, that's all the questions we got. We've got another pod late in the week, so let's save some more of the stuff about Norfolk State for that. But what else do we have? Sure, there's been other sports played at Rutgers. So the soccer team lost.
I'll make this short and sweet. I will start off with volleyball. We made a big deal of them being the first team to lose in the Kelly Zinn era. Let's give them some credit here. They went 3-0 this weekend. They won 3 matches, 9-1. They beat Dartmouth, Sacred Heart, and LIU to win the Sacred Heart Invitational. Look, yes, it's not Big Ten competition. When you lose to Buffalo and Liberty, it's nice to get some wins under your belt. I don't know if they have a Sacred Heart Invitational trophy. I probably wouldn't hang it in the College Ave gym, but silverware is always nice.
Some bad scheduling by Sacred Heart there. Okay, come on, you got to win your own invitational. Good grief.
Yeah, brutal. Field hockey, 2 tough losses in Columbus, Ohio for the Big Ten ACC Challenge, which I had no idea was a thing in Olympic sports, let alone field hockey. They lost 2-0 to Syracuse, the rivals, the Orange, and they lost 1-0 to number 3 Virginia. So tough good competition, losses, but good losses, SEC type losses. And then men's and women's soccer, they start Big Ten play this weekend in a doubleheader on Friday. The women play Michigan State at 4. The men play Penn State at 7. So if you're in for nothing to do on Friday, you want to get some Big Ten action, your Sac Field is the place to be.
There you go. All right. We've got something to do on Saturday. We will be there 3:30 in Piscataway.
Sorry, I forgot the one other big thing I had. Blue Ribbon, the magazine, they released their preseason college basketball preview. They picked Rutgers to finish 17th out of 18 teams in the Big Ten. Blue Ribbon is the magazine that was one of the few dissenters in the preseason last year where you and I were all planning the Final Four parade, and they said, wait a minute, they're going to finish 15th in the Big Ten. And turns out they were closer to the truth than us. So I put some weight into what they said. If I were voting in a preseason Big Ten poll today, that's roughly the area I'd probably vote Rutgers in. Steve Peichel thinks this is going to be a return to his old teams, defense, rebounding, depth. Probably the only formula for success they had this year.
I think I talked to the guy who did that for Blue Ribbon.
You did?
I'm pretty sure. Did I ever write that? I let that die in the notebook. Or you used it.
I used the quote in our 5-star flop story.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, and we're asking for his analysis, and like, how did you come up with this? And it's like, well, I kind of just looked at the roster. And did you guys think of doing that? It was great. His answer was sort of like, I don't want to tell you how to do your jobs, but when I do my job, I tend to look at who's playing for the team. Oh, good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. He saw through the hype, and he was like, I just don't see it.
Yeah. Right.
Which fair, we were in our own little bubble. I think we were eating our own propaganda for lunch. And he kind of just went above that.
We talked ourselves into it. Yeah, we talked ourselves into it over like 2 years. When I wrote this morning about the Giants, Pat. Like, you've got like all 7 months of the offseason to talk yourself into the fact that this team's going to be better. And then it goes out there and I'm like, this is the same horseshit team as last year, just with a different quarterback. Why did I think they were going to be better? Of course they still suck. We did this.
The offensive line hasn't been good in 20 years, and they still suck so bad.
It's the same five guys.
Same thing every year. And don't even get me started about you cover the Jets as well. Like, I feel for Jets fans that are like, every year that has to be the most tortured human existence on earth. Yeah. I feel it now as a Giants fan, and like the misery of how bad it is to suck all the time. But just think about the torture of being a Jets fan.
It ain't great. It ain't
great.
No, it's not. All right, let's leave it there. We'll be back late in the week for our picks sponsored by the Heldrich, and we'll find out just if we think Rutgers is going to cover the spread or not. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant.
Popsicles, sprinklers, a cool breeze. Talk about refreshing. You know what else is refreshing this summer? A brand new phone with Verizon. Yep, get a new phone on any plan with Select Phone Trade-in and My Plan. And lock down a low price for 3 years on any plan with My Plan. This is a deal for everyone, whether you're a new or existing customer. Swing by Verizon today for our best phone deals. 3-year price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate only. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
I'm Chris Hadfield. I'm an astronaut, an author, a citizen of planet Earth. Join me for a 6-part journey into the systems that power the world. Real conversations with real people who are shaping the future of energy. No politics, no empty talk, just solutions-focused conversations on the challenges we must overcome and the possibilities that lie ahead. This is On Energy.
Listen wherever you get your podcasts.